you need to understand a fact that shifts the way you see everything. Selfish people are not truly powerful. They only act like they are. Their strength doesn't come from who they truly are. It comes from how much influence they have over you. They grow strong on your notice, your life force, your reactions, and the second you walk away forever, something happens inside of them that they never want you to know. They mentally shatter. They don't just lose a person, they lose their source of attention. They lose their mirror. They lose the one thing that supported their oversized self-image. And when that's gone, their entire weak structure begins to fall apart. At first, they will pretend like they don't care. They'll wear the false face of superiority, acting like they're better off without you. But when they are alone, they start losing control because in reality, your absence forces them to face the very thing they spend their entire life running away from, themselves. When you leave, you remove the stage they built around your energy. They can't put on a show anymore. They can't play the hero, the victim, or the manipulator with you. And that lack of feeling terrifies them. The quietness you create is louder than every fight, every disagreement, every explanation you once offered. They relive the moment you left over and over. They wonder why they didn't see it coming. They start to panic because deep down, they know they pushed things too far. And unlike every other time, you didn't return, you didn't yield, you didn't give in. That's what mentally shatters them. Not just the loss, but the realization that they can't direct you anymore. For a selfish person, that loss of authority feels like the end. And here's the truth. The real breakdown doesn't happen the day you leave. It happens every single day after when they realize they'll never get you back. That's when the mask falls. That's when the rage, the despair, and the emptiness eat them alive. So if you've ever questioned whether walking away was powerful, hear me now. It is the bravest, strongest, most freeing move you could ever make. Because while you get better, they break. Control is their only power, and your absence destroys it. A selfish person's entire identity is built on control. It's not about love, connection, or partnership. It's about power. Their feeling of worth doesn't come from inside. It comes from how much they can influence the people around them. Every look, every word, every silence they give is carefully planned to keep you caught. That's why when you finally walk away, it feels like their entire base crumbles beneath them. You see, they never expected you to leave. In their world, you were just another part in the story they wrote. They believed you would always stay, always forgive, always bend, no matter how much they pushed. That belief gave them a false sense of power, but the moment you leave, that story catches fire. Nothing makes sense to them anymore because the narrative no longer follows their rules. Control is essential to a selfish person, and when you cut it off, it's like watching them gasp for air. They don't know how to function without someone reacting to them, without someone feeding their ego, without someone carrying the weight of their disorder. Your absence reveals just how hollow they really are. At first, they'll try to hide it with superiority. They'll act like they're fine, like they never needed you. But that's a show. When they are alone, their mind is falling apart because you removed the very thing they depended on to keep their ego alive, your attention. Without it, they start to lose their grip. Their power was never real strength. It was borrowed from you. Every time you argued back, every time you explained yourself, every time you tried to prove your value, you were giving them energy. But now that supply is gone. They're left staring into the emptiness of their own reflection, and it scares them. This is why they lash out, speak badly about your name, or suddenly try to pull you back in. It's not because they love you. It's because they're desperate to get back the control they lost. They'll throw fits. They'll act like victims. They'll use guilt or rage, anything, to pull you back into the confines. But the truth is, that confines no longer locks the way it used to. Your absence destroys the false idea of their power. It forces them to face the reality that the only strength they ever had came from using you, and when that's gone, they break. Their mind starts moving quickly. They wonder how they'll operate without your energy. They question who they are when they can't direct you. And here's the harsh truth for them. They are nothing without someone to manipulate. That emptiness is the mental trap they built for themselves. The quietness after you leave is louder than any words you spoke. Silence is not just the absence of sound. It's a statement. It's a limit. It's the one thing a selfish person cannot stand because it removes their favorite weapon, your reaction. When you leave and go silent, it becomes the loudest, most powerful message you've ever sent. They used to thrive on your responses. Whether you cried, argued, explained, or begged, it didn't matter. Any reaction was fuel for them. Your words, your emotions, your explanations were tools they could twist and use against you. But when you walk away and give them silence, they lose the plan. At first, they'll convince themselves that your silence is meaningless. They'll tell themselves you're weak, that you'll come begging back, that you're just trying to get their attention. But as the silence goes on, panic begins to grow inside them. Because this isn't a pause, it's lasting. The silence becomes too loud in their mind. Every unanswered call, every ignored message, every day that passes without your presence is a reminder that they no longer have access to you. And that lack of access is like a painful blow to their oversized ego. What makes silence so powerful is that it forces them to hear something they've avoided their whole life, their own thoughts. Without your energy to drown them out, they're left with the weight of their emptiness. And that emptiness is unbearable. This is why they try so hard to break your quietness. They'll push every weak poi, NT they know you have. They'll provoke you with insults, tempt you with fake apologies, or make you feel guilty with stories of how much they've changed. But the silence, if you maintain it, becomes stronger than any of their methods. The silence you create isn't just about ignoring them. It's about taking back your voice by choosing not to waste it on someone who will never value it. And that is what mentally shatters them. The realization that they can no longer provoke you into playing their game. Silence removes their power. It starves them of the disorder they crave. And as the days turn into weeks and weeks into months, they begin to see the truth they never wanted to face. You don't need them, but they desperately needed you. They relive your departure again and again until it consumes them. When you leave a selfish person for good, it doesn't just pass them by like another breakup. It leaves a mark on their mind. They can't forget it. Your departure becomes the one moment they can't change, the one story they can't control, and that is what eats them alive. They replay it over and over, trying to make sense of something that was never supposed to happen, you choosing yourself over them. Every detail of that moment becomes an obsession. They remember the way you looked at them, the tone of your voice, the silence you held when you didn't argue back this time. They replay it because deep down they can't accept it. Their ego tells them they're too important to ever be left. But the reality is right there you walked away and you didn't look back. This replay doesn't bring them understanding. It drives them crazy because each time they run through it in their mind, the answer is always the same. They lost control, and loss is something their weak ego cannot handle. Instead of learning from it, they lose control. The replay becomes a mental place of pain they can escape. They try to change the story in their head. Sometimes they'll tell themselves you left because you were weak. Other times they'll convince themselves you'll eventually regret it and crawl back. But no matter how many times they try to change the end, the truth keeps breaking through. You're gone and you're not coming back. This obsession starts to affect every part of their life. They'll look closely at your social media. Not because they care about your happiness, but because they're hunting for flaws, any sign of weakness, any sign that you miss them. Every time they don't find it, the replay in their mind grows louder, harsher, and more consuming. At night, when it's quiet, the moment of your departure replays the strongest. That's when they can't rest, unable to quiet their thoughts. They wonder if you planned it all along, if you had someone else waiting, if you secretly gained the strength to leave while they weren't paying attention. Their suspicion grows, and the replay turns into endless what-ifs. The replay also fuels their anger. They don't just miss you, they resent you for daring to leave. Each mental replay adds to the fire of their rage, making them feel smaller and smaller every time. They start to see themselves as the victim, blaming you for the collapse even though deep down they know it was their own behavior that pushed you away. And that's what truly consumes them, the knowledge they can't get away from. They know they caused it, they know they had control, and they lost it because they went too far. But instead of accepting responsibility, they drown in refusal, in obsession, in that endless replay. Your departure becomes their troubling ghost. Every time they think about moving on, that memory pulls them back. Every time they try to boost their ego again, the replay reminds them of the moment it cracked. And the more they fight, the deeper it consumes them. That's why they lash out with bad talk about you or desperate attempts to pull you back. It's not love, it's desperation to erase the haunting replay. They want to change the end, to convince themselves that you didn't leave by choice, that somehow they pushed you away first. But no matter what they say, the truth in their mind remains the same. You chose to walk away, and that choice destroyed the false idea of their power. The replay isn't a single event for them. It stretches on for months, sometimes years, because you weren't just another person to them. You were the reflection they needed to see themselves as important. And when you broke that mirror by leaving, their entire identity cracked with it. That's why the replay never fades. It keeps reminding them of the moment their false self was shown. Even when they move on to someone new, the replay doesn't stop. It hides in the background. The new source of attention might distract them for a while, but late at night, when the mask slips, the memory of you walking away returns. They compare every new partner to you, wondering why you had the strength to leave when others didn't. That comparison keeps the pain fresh. The more they replay it, the deeper the wound gets. And here's what makes it even worse for them. The more you succeed without them, the more unbearable that replay becomes. They see you smiling, healing, growing, and it twists the knife because your growth proves that leaving was the right choice, and that truth is what finally consumes them. The replay of your departure is not just a memory for them, it becomes their personal ruin. It's the ghost they can't get rid of, the story they can't rewrite, the ending they can't change. It's the moment that breaks their mind over and over again because it represents the one thing they thought could never happen: someone walking away and never looking back. What breaks them most is realizing they can't direct you anymore. Control is the lifeline of a selfish person's existence. It's not love, it's not connection, it's not partnership, it's influence. Every smile they gave you, every word of praise, every sudden taking away of affection, all of it was carefully planned to keep you in their power. The moment they realize those strings don't move you anymore, something inside of them shatters. They've always believed they had authority over you. They studied your weak spots, your fears, your doubts, and they used them as weapons. They believed that no matter what, you'd always react, you'd always come back, you'd always yield. That belief kept their ego oversized. But the day they wake up and see that their words no longer hurt, their silence no longer scares you, their guilt trips no longer change you, that's the day their mask begins to crack. At first, they won't accept it. They'll test you. They'll throw out subtle remarks to see if you react. They'll try the old methods, the silent treatment, the sudden affection, the guilt trips. When you don't respond the way you used to, confusion sets in. Their mind struggles for an explanation because the reality that you're beyond their power is too devastating to take in. That confusion quickly turns to anger. How dare you not react? How dare you not fall into place? How dare you walk away without begging for a final word? In their world, your strength feels like betrayal. They see your freedom as rebellion, and rebellion to them is unforgivable. But beneath that rage is fear. The fear of realizing that their hold on you was never permanent. The fear of recognizing that the power they thought was complete was actually borrowed from your energy, your compassion, your readiness to keep giving. And now that you've taken it back, they have nothing left. The loss of control is what truly breaks them because it forces them to face a truth they've spent their entire lives avoiding. Without someone to manipulate, they are powerless. Their identity is built on the false idea of control. Remove that, and what's left is emptiness. That emptiness is intolerable for them. They've filled it for years with manipulation, with dominance, with the act of being in charge. But when they lose control over you, the illusion falls apart. They're left staring at a version of themselves they can't stand, weak, desperate, meaningless. This is why they scramble so hard after you walk away. It's not about love. It's not about missing you. It's about getting back control. They'll use every weapon they can: rage, guilt, charm, pity, not because they care, but because they're desperate to restore the power they lost. But here's the truth. Once you've broken free, their weapons lose their force. You see through them. You no longer respond to the act, and that realization is unbearable for them. They're forced to accept that you're no longer under their magic, and that truth cuts deeper than any wound they've ever felt. Every time you don't respond, it takes away from their ego. Every time you stay silent, it wears down the illusion they built. Every time you keep your limit, it reminds them that their power is gone. And each reminder drives them further into the spiral of rage, denial, and despair. They can't stand watching you succeed without them because your independence is the loudest proof that they no longer control you. Every smile, every victory, every step you take forward is like a light shining on their loss of power. That's why they try so hard to pull you back, not to love you, but to silence the evidence of their failure. Their mind becomes a war zone. On one side is their inflated ego screaming that they should have control. On the other side is reality showing them they don't. That war inside their head is what breaks them, because no matter how much they try to deny it, the real collapse doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens slowly, every day that you don't come back, every day that their attempts to regain control fail. That slow loss of power is what mentally destroys them piece by piece until the person who once felt untouchable is reduced to someone desperately clinging to false ideas. And here's the most powerful truth. Your freedom is their ruin. The second you break free from their control, their world begins to collapse. What breaks them most isn't your absence, isn't your silence, isn't even your strength. What breaks them most is the clear truth that they can no longer control you, and they never will again. Your getting better becomes their greatest ruin. The deepest wound a selfish person ever feels is not when you leave, it's when you heal. They expect your absence to ruin you. They want you broken, begging, and desperate because that would prove they still mattered. But when you rise up instead of collapsing, when you shine instead of fading, when you rebuild your life without them, that's when they break in ways they can't hide. Your healing is the one thing they can't match. They can copy success. They can fake confidence. They can put on the mask of being better off. But what they cannot do is genuinely heal. Healing requires knowing yourself, taking responsibility and growth, all things they run from. So when they watch you do it, it becomes a mirror reflecting everything they'll never be. Every step you take forward is like a reminder of their failure. Every smile you wear without them, every new limit you enforce, every achievement you reach becomes proof that they didn't destroy you. And that reality burns their ego from the inside out. The reason your healing breaks them is because it takes away the last false idea of power they were holding on to, the fantasy that you would never succeed without them. They fed themselves that story to keep their pride intact. But when your healing proves them wrong, it crushes the false image they built of themselves as the most important person in your world. They can't stand to see you shine because it reminds them of the truth they fear most. You never needed them. They needed you. Your light, your energy, your love, your strength, that was their fuel. And when you stop giving it and start investing it into yourself, they fall apart. Your healing is not just your victory, it is their downfall. It shows them that no matter how much they tried to control you, they couldn't stop you from finding your strength. It proves that all their manipulation failed in the end. And that proof is what breaks them more than your silence, more than your absence, more than your leaving. Because healing is the one thing they can't fake, can't take, and can't control. It's yours. And it's the final power they will never have over you. When you finally walk away from a selfish person and choose yourself, you don't just leave, you break the base they built on control. Their mind begins to fall apart the moment your silence takes the place of your reaction, the moment your strength overcomes their manipulation, the moment your healing shines brighter than their chaos. What they thought would be your downfall becomes their collapse. Because while they replay the moment you left, obsess over the control they lost, and lose control in the emptiness they created, you rise, you rebuild, you grow stronger than ever before. And that truth is the greatest payback. They break while you become unshakable.